Welcome to the Wired to Hunt podcast. This week of the show, I'm joined by Troy Pottenger, and I'm running him through our What Would You Do gauntlet, giving us insight into exactly how he'd handle some of the most challenging hunting scenarios I could throw at him. All right, welcome back to the Wired to Hunt podcast, brought to you by First Light and their Camo for Conservation. It is their season opener sale this week, by the way. If you're listening to this right when it launches, which would be Thursday, August 21st, 2025. If you happen to be listening to it that week, season opener, check it on out over at firstlight.com. There's some good deals going on. But in more relevant news, today we are continuing our What Would You Do series. The gist of this series is that I talk to different expert whitetail hunters and give them very specific hypothetical deer hunting scenarios or challenges or circumstances and ask them to detail for us how they would handle them, how they would think through this challenge, how would they act on this challenge, what would be their strategy, their thought process, why would they do these different things, all of that. We've had it so far. We've done one of these with Ted Zangerly. We've done one with Terry Drury earlier this month, and today we have Troy Pottenger. And last week with Terry, that was a little bit more of a private land focused conversation. Today we're back to more of a public land focused conversation because Troy specializes in hunting big country, big timber, big hills or mountains, and finding really big bucks in these pretty darn tough circumstances. So it's going to be a very interesting one. Troy comes to us from the Whitetail Addictions crew. He is a proven DIY deer hunter who has gotten it done not just in his home state of Idaho and the surrounding area of Canada, Montana, Washington, but also he's headed east. He's done it in Ohio. He's done it, I think, in Iowa or Illinois, some of these other states in the Midwest. So his tactics will work for you whether you're on the West Coast or the East. The terrain that he's specialized in, these big hills, rolling topography, mountains, it's stuff that I know that people in Southern Ohio or Virginia or Pennsylvania or New York or the Appalachians down, Tennessee, Georgia, whatever. This is something that can apply to many of you. And I think there's some other ideas that Troy shares with us about using scrapes that can be applicable even in flatter country, whether you're in Michigan or Mississippi or somewhere in between. So he's a great hunter, a great storyteller and communicator around how he develops his plans and his processes. There's a lot we can learn from Troy today. So I don't want to beat around the bush too much on this one. I mentioned already that our First Light season opener sale is going on right now. If you are listening on the 21st or 22nd of September, it's August, I guess now, 2025. Also, the Wired Hunt hats I've been telling you about, those are still in stock, but we have these brand new t-shirts. If you are watching, you can see the brand new Wired Hunt t-shirt just dropped this week as well. You can find all of that over at the MeatEater store. Hope you guys like them. I appreciate you showing your support for this podcast and what we're trying to do over here. So thanks in advance for that. And thanks for tuning in. I hope you're going to enjoy this one. I know you're going to enjoy this one. Troy's a great guest. He's got a lot to share. So why don't we just get to my chat with Mr. Pottenger? Here we go. All right, joining me once again on the show is Mr. Troy Pottenger. Welcome to the show, Troy.
Hey, Mark. Thanks for having me. It's great to get a circle back and talk to you again.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I always enjoy our chats. We had some good ones over the years, and excited for today, though, because it's a little bit different than usual, as you know, and we're just, jumping right in. No formalities here today. We're gonna get right into the fun stuff. The format for today's show is this What Would You Do gauntlet, in which I'm going to throw you to the wolves with all these different hypothetical situations. Some might be like fun to consider. Some might be stressful to consider. I think plenty of them you've probably experienced yourself. And I've ran a number of the Whitetail Addictions crew through this one. I know we've done Andre, we've done Justin, maybe Heath. I can't remember, but you're in good company, and
There we go.
I think it's gonna be interesting. So I just want to jump into it so we maximize our time here. Imagine this one: imagine that the season is coming soon. It's August. I know opening day of archery for you in Idaho is August 30th.
Yes.
So you're excited, you're amped up, everything's prepared. But a week before opening day, I pick you up and I say, hey, Troy, can't hunt Idaho. I'm flying you to New York State and you've got to hunt the Adirondacks of New York this year. But you've got one weekend here in August to prepare for your hunt coming up later that year. Okay. So you got Saturday and Sunday in the Adirondacks of New York. What would you do in that 2-day window to prepare yourself for your week-long return trip, let's say in November, out in the mountains of the Adirondacks? Walk me through thought process and plan for maximizing 2 days in this brand new mountain area.
Okay, so I've got 2 days to get out there, do my due diligence of scouting to prepare for a November hunt. What time in November?
I'm going to say you are going to be there from November 1st through the 7th for your return trip. And you can do anything digitally beyond the 2 days, but you only have 2 days on the ground to do your work.
Right. So obviously the easy thing that I know I'm going to be able to do is do a massive amount of e-scouting outside of those 2 days.
Yep.
But those 2 days are crucial. And this kind of plays into my hand because, I'm 33 years as a teacher. I have had to teach, force, train, whatever word you want to say, myself to figure out deer in the summer when I have free time to be able to kill them in October, November. And there's a lot of people out there that don't like to scout hard in the summer, but that's been my life. My whole life has been, can I scout effectively in the summer and translate that to late October, November type hunts? And I do that. But it takes a lot of effort and paying attention to details that are hard to see. So let's say the e-scouting side of it, I'm a big Google Earth. I love Google Earth because I can really look at the right now habitat and conditions of what's going on out there.
Yep.
And then I like to overlap it with, whatever your favorite hunt app is. So I would do a ton of that as much as I could before that 2-day trip out to get my boots on the ground. And I would do a ton of that after I got to put boots on the ground on those 2 days to try to make sure it all made sense in the big picture of that early November hunt. So that's just a given. That's going to happen because I have ample amount of time to e-scout this before and after. But to me, the crucial part would be if I had 2 days, I would use every ounce of daylight till dark to cover ground. And I do that all the time out here right now in the summers in August on bucks. But out here right now, I'm trying to get within 100 yards of a buck's bedding zone to kill him August 30th. That wouldn't be my focus as much in the Adirondacks in August because I'd be hunting November. I would scout the living daylights out of the wind, how it worked in the Adirondacks, how it positioned deer. I would do a ton of research behind the scenes of my free time on the favorable food sources. I would get on the ground out there every second of daylight I have, and I would just cover a ton of ground based on my e-scouting prior to getting there. And then I would break down first how the wind is working in those mountains and how the thermal is working, because that will always position whitetail deer for safety in mountain country, no matter where you're at. Really anywhere. They will always live their life around wind, thermals, and then, of course, the obvious, the water, the feed, and everything that's going to be available to them in that November window I get a hunt. So I would hit the ground running, and I would cover as much ground as I could, and I would look for historical, traditional, long-standing evidence, sign of community rutting areas. All the signs going to have to be there from the year before. I need to find the licking branches that most guys will walk by because the leaves have the ground covered up. I need to find the old scrapes, all the traditional rubs that have been pounded over the years. I need to walk with the wind and the thermals to let it walk me into those areas that give deer herds safety, solace, food, water, security cover, habitat, all of it for November. And I wouldn't focus on, like, if I bumped a buck out of his bed while doing it, no bother at all. Wouldn't bother me a bit. I would ask myself, where would this deer be based on the doe family groups that I'm finding evidence of and the community type hubs that I'm finding evidence of? Where would this deer probably stage based on the topography, the terrain, the cover, how the wind works in there to service these does? So I would really focus on the doe family groups evidence from the previous rutting time of the year to circle back and hunt them in that first week in November, because I'm going to be hunting for 1 week hardcore on where I believe a big buck would feel safe servicing does in the daylight that time of year, checking scrapes and really doing his work that time of year.
So I know you put a huge priority on those community scraping areas. But as you mentioned, in the summer, it's a lot harder to see them. You might be able to see the licking branches if you're really paying attention, but it's probably not going to pop like they normally would. What would that? I know I personally know what that looks like when I'm out there in October or November. But if I'm out there, or for listeners out there in August, what would a community scrape area look like? A primary scraping area, whatever you want to call it. What would that look like in August? How do I know, like, oh yes, this is actually a really good one, even though it's really overgrown and it doesn't jump off the map like they normally would?
Right. The number one thing I see when I teach my boot camps out here in Idaho, and when I'm working with guys, when I walk them through the woods this time of year, because I do the boot camps in June and July, they walk right by licking branches all the time. They don't understand what they need to be looking for. So I teach that. So that whole scrape science, that hub science of deer and how deer use that, like you and I do on social media, to communicate, to know each other, to send messages. It's all about those licking branches. So I would be looking for and not purposely making sure I don't walk by those discreet, hard to see in the summer, weathered, well used, decades of use sign on specific licking branches. Now, I'll do my due diligence before I get out there too on species of favorable licking branches in the Adirondacks. And I'd talk to some guys that I know hunt the Adirondacks that would really know their stuff, and they'd give me some species to look for. I would do all that ahead of time. So then I would really know what to key in on those licking branches. And that's the key in the summer. All the scrapes that I run year round, all of the scrapes that I find in my scouting, I do a ton of prospecting to stay ahead of the curve out here year after year after year. I stay way ahead of the curve. I'm always keying in at eye level. And it's nice because licking branches are usually at eye level. I'm 5'10", they're right there. So I'm not going to miss them. And it's only because I've trained my brain to really focus on those because it's been so successful. So I would focus in on the torn, tattered, beat up, even if it's got leaves growing back on it. Let's say it's some type of a brush or whatever they love to use, or it's a specific tree that is deciduous and grows leaves, drops them. I'm still looking for those tips, those little ends of the licking branch that have been beat to heck. And a lot of times the best community hub type scrapes that deer use decade after decade are positioned such to where the wind, the thermals, the feed, the security cover, everything plays into the deer's favor. The deer favor that time of the year. And I'm looking for those places where I would fill that lower light, heavier canopy, little darker timber, potentially, I see that a lot out west, that those corridors where it's not so wide open that deer are a little spooky about using it in the daylight. I would really key in on those types of licking branch scrape hubs, if you will. But I'm breaking down those details on those actual branches.
Okay. Now, you mentioned covering a lot of ground over those 2 days. Would you devote any time to taking things the next step, which would be either deploying cameras on those scrapes or in other areas, and or picking trees, prepping trees, anything like that?
Yes, and to be fair, Mark, in this question, I'm not dealing with any agriculture, am I, at all?
Correct. This would be just big woods.
Big woods, no destination food sources. Yes,
Yes.
I would obviously, if there's oaks out there, I'm looking big time for community scrapes around isolated white oak type pockets, things like that. Yes, I don't go into the woods, and I can say this from my heart. I don't go into the woods ever without intent, specific purpose, always. I never go into the woods anymore just to dick around. Excuse my language. I don't do it.
Fine.
I don't have time for it. And I care too much about being proficient with my time that I have because my family, my kids, everything comes first before that. So my pack always weighs about 20 to 30 pounds when I go into the woods. Why? I go in heavy, I come out light. I'm probably packing at least 4 or 5 cameras. I'm packing my scrape synthetics. I don't go anywhere ever without that stuff because it is so easy in the world of scrape science to jump in the game with the deer when you find a spot that screams you need to hunt here in November. So, yes, I would deploy. When I come across something that gives me all of like, not just instinctual, but proven past, checks all the boxes for me, that this could be a spot that I want to come back to, I would set it up, over market. I would open up their scrape in August on them because it's getting close to hard horn. I would open stuff up everywhere. And one thing I didn't touch on, when I find those licking branches, I immediately inspect the ground below it, even if I got to move all the needles and debris or leaves to see if there's a big scrape there. And usually you can see through that stuff and identify it without moving it. But sometimes the ground cover is crazy. But I would want to see that dirt from the past, that identity of that scrape being there too on the ground is what I'm getting at. So
Yep.
yes, I would deploy. I would open up, overmark, and even build some mocks in the right terrain type funnels that, I haven't even said the word trails yet. Trails are huge to me. When I walk through the woods, I map out all the trails. I map out all the lateral trails on mountains. I map out all the vertical ascent, descent trails on mountains because during the rut, the whitetails run the lateral trails to cover the most ground to pick up scent on the mountains, on the terrain, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So I would be mapping out all of those lateral trails for November, even more so than the vertical ascent and descent trails that you would hunt August, September. And then it all just comes into a big picture scenario to where I'm prepared. And in 10 minutes, I can build, overmark, freshen, do all my work, hang a camera, and I'm going to the next one. And I would do that from daylight till dark each day. And of course, I'd be running either an off-grid, saved offline map. I'd be running all of that in my hand nowadays, which I'm kind of happy that I grew up in an era before all of this because I actually don't have to use those, but they're extra confirmation for me now of seeing the big picture on my map. But I used to do all of this 100% without any type of electronic device. And I just store it all right here in my brain or in my head and I just memorize it. So that's just a great addition for me. So that's what I'm taking into the woods, Mark. That's what I'm deploying. I'm definitely going to leave cameras, and I'll be honest, if cell service is out there anywhere, and if cell is legal, I'm packing a cell camera with me too, just in case. Absolutely. Especially being 2,000 miles away. in Idaho.
Yeah. Let's take this like one step further. You described a number of different things you would do. I want to give you a little bit more of a set of specifics, and then have you kind of break it down a little bit more. So imagine this area that you went and checked out. Let's imagine that there is a main ridge running north south, and then it's got two finger ridges coming off to the east. So it's kind of like the letter C. All right, if you were like a flat C almost.
Right. You got
So
a
we
big
got
drink, you got a big
yeah,
basin. Yeah.
big basin. Yep. Exactly. That's what I'm trying to paint here. Big basin here. And you've got a short window of this day, of your 2 days. Let's say you dedicated a quarter of your weekend was to this basin. I'm curious how you would break down that basin specifically. So how you would do what you described doing, but now put it in this picture for me. And then also, how would you prep and pick the one best stand location in that one basin? So again, looking to take what you just described kind of high level and apply it to this specific north-south running basin, picking the best spot and how you would prep that best spot in this short window of time. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah. So if it's a quarter of the day, and in the summer, you get about 15 hours of daylight in August. Correct? Am I pretty close there?
That sounds about right. Yeah.
Pretty close.
Yeah.
So a quarter of it is quite a few hours I'd have that I could use in there. I would not, on that boots on the ground day, those 7 hours, let's just say 7.5 hours.
Yep.
I would not be as concerned so much as to how I entered east, west, north, south. I would want to cover it. And I'm of the mind of find the pocket, find the honey hole, find that safe security spot that those deer will breed and chase in the daylight in November based on the doe family groups. I'm going to look for all their signs, their tracks, their trails, even in the grass, even in the tall stuff. I can see a buck walk through tall grass or a doe. You just got to look at the grass and you'll see where they're working through it. So I'm not sure what the Adirondacks look like on the ground in August, but out here, there's a lot of vegetation. So I would get in there, Mark, in that basin and those ridges. And knowing me, logically, I would go high right out of the gate so I could work my way downhill all day.
So you start on top of the ridges.
Yeah, I would go high early in the morning. I would analyze the thermals on my hike in, and I would get up high. And I would run those, it's kind of like when I elk hunt. I like to get on big ridges and stay high above the animals and work at them right across the tops. So in that scenario, I would be deciphering the thermals, and I would keep close track to when I feel them switch, and I would get up high. And because if you work high early, your energy that you have to work, you get up there early, and then you have all that energy that next 5-6 hours out of the 7 hours, whatever it takes to get up high, to break that entire basin down working downhill. And I would probably do great big C type, not exactly a grid, but kind of, and I'd work that whole basin. And I'd want to come out at the bottom where I entered in the evening at frickin' dark. I plan on walking out with my headlamp on, because then I would, so let's say I did from 2 o'clock till 9 o'clock at night when it got dark, one of those half days in there. To me, that makes sense to get high, work my way down, have the whole day to work downhill. And then I would be packing everything I need on my back. I'd probably have my Spy High stick as a walking stick so I could put a camera up high if I need to. It's public. I would just literally lay that sucker out. And I believe in 7 hours, let's say 6-7 hours of actual really working that basin over. I would know how the prevailing winds work for the most part, how the thermals and when they switch. I would study the slope that I'm on, the north, south, east, west slopes, because that dictates wind and cooling of the thermals and heating of the thermals differently at different times. I would read all of the trails, the lateral trails, the vertical trails, the sign. Obviously, I'm looking for those hub scrapes, those licking branches, and I would be blowing those up, setting cameras and trapping. I'm literally a whitetail trapper.
Yeah, setting trap line.
I would be setting a trap line in that basin and then let all of that foot, boots on the ground, strategic movement through that basin, laying out of the cameras, refreshing, opening up, creating a mock scrape if I think it's has to be there based on what I find with trails and how the timber and the ridges funnel everything, how the wind makes deer, wind will always position deer in their bedding zones. Always. Wind and thermals does. So that's all rolling through my mind as I break it down. And when I come across the sign that's from November, from October, when the sign is there and I can see that old sign, I'm keying in on it because that's what I'm hunting is November.
If I were to, if you and I were looking at the topographic map of this basin together, and I said, pick the 4 best looking places on this topographic map right now, put a pin on it or circle it on the map. And then you went back there and actually scouted on the ground as you described. And now you went and you checked all the spots and you found the single best place. Do you think that in your map pre-work, do you think that you could have picked the best spot? Would the best spot in real life actually have been one of the 4 places you picked ahead of time?
I believe I can, yes, and I do it a lot. Do I always hit it perfect? No. But I really focus in on wind and thermals where it positions deer for bedding and how mature bucks really like to have the high ground in the wind and thermals on doe bedding, doe family groups and doe bedding. So they like to be able. It's simple common sense. A thermal blows up hill during the day way more hours than downhill. So if you want to kill stuff in the daylight in mountain country, big bucks use those uphill thermals to travel and scent check before they drop, before they bail off. They run those high lines, those lateral lines like crazy in the mountains. And I see it in Ohio on a 200-foot elevation gain in Ohio. I see the same thing. I see the exact same thing, just a smaller version of it. So do I believe I could nail a really productive spot with the maps? 100%. But what I think I really need more than anything is finding those white oaks or whatever type of food source is the best for November for those doe family groups. And then if those correspond with the terrain features and the prevailing and thermal winds that I think would really make a buck want to be there with those doe family groups close, then it's going to be money. But where I think I might run into trouble with a map-only quest is I got to go find where the best feed is going to be in November too. And I'm assuming, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't hunt a lot of oaks, but I'm assuming, how long do those oaks drop in that kind of country? How long is that food source there? So I would have to do all that research too, Mark.
Yep.
Yep.
So where I'm going with that is this last follow-up, which would be, could you just paint a picture for me of what that place that would jump off the map would look like from the map perspective? Because I feel like I've got a good understanding now of what you're looking for on the ground. But what I do want to make sure folks understand is what are the key things on the topo map or even the aerial topo hybrid that you would say, oh yes, this is the spot I need to go ground truth. Can you paint that picture for me real quick? And then we'll move on to a new one.
I think I could paint one that would probably work. I would, on a map, I would be looking for, off that big ridge system within that basin, I would be looking for finger ridges and benches that come down off of it.
Yep.
And I would be mapping out in my mind, based on those terrain features, where the best security cover and happy place for does are, where a buck could position himself to monitor them without having to be right in the middle of them every day. And then I would probably hit first that halfway, 2/3 of the way up in those mountains on those ridges where I believe I'd be pretty close to where bucks felt very good about bedding, hanging out, even, checking on does. I would probably not be in the very bottom unless I thought that I could get a wind to work down there. I would most likely be looking at saddles within saddles, finger ridges that have nice benches, things that are terrain, no, things is the wrong word, terrain features that really aid in the movement and monitoring of whitetail bucks over does, and the does are close proximity to them. Then you got to look at the habitat. You have to get on that. Like I say, get on Google Earth and look at the actual habitat.
Yeah.
Try to find pictures from November of what that habitat looks like. It might be wide open with no leaves. What kind of brush is in there? So there's a lot. This is, these questions there's a lot loaded into them in my mind of the stuff I would have to break down. But I guarantee I would be on terrain features that are conducive for bucks, comfortable daylight type, observing does, monitoring does, and even chasing and breeding does. I would want to be right in the middle of that to start because I want to find daylight movement. And I want wind that I can hunt. I want wind and thermals that I can enter and exit and be able to hunt it without just wasting my time at a spot. I have to be able to hunt in my mind on a map. I have to be able to get to that location, exit and enter it, even on a map before I ever walk there. I have to be able to look at it and go, yeah, I can get there and get out of there, hunt off to the edge of those prevailings and thermals and kill something. And I would also look for terrain barriers that would protect me from deer wanting to walk directly downwind of me. Might be an opening, might be a bunch of blowdown timber, might be a bluff, might be a deep ravine with a creek in it that really steers deer around it because it's so steep and they'd rather travel a trail just above it. I would look for all of that.
Yep. Okay. Let's pivot. Something a little bit different here. Let's put you back home. You're in Idaho or one of your, other areas you hunt there, Montana, Washington. You've done your work, you've prepped, you've got your cameras out, you've got your trap line set, you're good to go. Season opens. You start heading out to whatever your best spot is that you thought for that part of the season would be. And you start driving by a number of different trailheads that you've historically used. Maybe you're not going to be there today, but you drive by one, there's 2 trucks there. Kind of surprising. You keep going, you're heading towards your best spot for that particular day. You drive by another basin, 2 trucks there. You get to your spot that you're going to hunt, and there's 2 or 3 trucks there too.
Yep.
Bunch of hunting pressure in your zone now. And I don't know what it's usually like there, but let's say there's more than you would expect.
Right.
Let's say it's the COVID year again, when everyone came out of the woodwork and started hunting again, right? What would that do to your plan for that day or the next couple days there at the beginning of the year when you're flooded with an unexpected amount of hunting pressure? Does that change your plan at all, or do you still stick to the program, do what you're going to do?
Yeah, it's a good question. Because I hunt so big a country, and if it's opening day, that's August 30th, I have till December 24th to kill the buck I'm after. I usually have a group of bucks that are on my list that I want to hunt. So that kind of answers your question right there. If I saw that type of scenario in the vast public that I hunt, and guys literally park right where I want to park, first thing is in my case, just from my past of being successful with mountain whitetails, I don't want to park by those guys and leave my identity with them. What if they hunt half a day and walk out and, oh, there's Pottenger's pickup? They take your, so first of all, I'm not leaving my identity there. And I'm just going to plan B. I've done this for years. I always have a plan B, C, D, and sometimes E. And because I hunt such vast country, it's pretty hard for me, based on all of the homework I do on these whitetails and effort I put into finding them early, know them year after year. I usually can go to plan B or C, Mark, and go find a quiet place. Only because of that work that I put in to have that going.
Yeah.
It would never be that way if I didn't put all that year-round work in to have that stuff established and working for me. So I would go to plan B. And if plan
Okay.
B wasn't good, I'd go to C. But I'm not going to give away, in my case, where I'm at. I'm just not going to do it. I don't need to because I have 4 months to hunt a deer that I may be targeting. I would have now if it was at the end of the season and I had 3 days left. That's a little different question.
Now, what about this? Let's say it's similar but slightly different. Let's say you go to your best spot, and maybe this is let's sweeten the deal a little bit. It's opening day, and a cold front happened to hit on August 30th. So it went from maybe 80 degrees to high 50s, and you just know it's going to be good. And you get to the trailhead, and there's no cars. Looks good. Going to plan A. You hike up to your spot, and you get to. I'm just going to make an assumption here. Correct me if I'm wrong, but let's assume it's going to be some kind of community scrape area near some buck bedding, and you had a camera set up, and you see. We'll say it could be one of two things. Either A, someone set up a camera right on your setup near your camera, and or someone set up a tree stand in that same zone. So there's a camera or tree stand right in your zone. Now there's not anyone there right now, but you see that someone has found your zone and set up on it. It's the afternoon of opening day and you've hiked all the way in and it's a banging cold front. What do you do now?
Well, I'm going to hunt it, and I'm going to obviously wonder how the heck somebody found me there and why they would want to set up near me. And I've had that happen. I came in on one of my I came in on just an incredible spot I had set up one time to get my tree and hunt this deer. And to be fair to your listeners, I never go to spots. I go to the deer I'm after. So I don't really have a honey hole. I hunt specific deer. So my spots, the nice thing about that is, Mark, some of my spots get moved year to year, even on a specific deer, even if it's 100 yards, 200 yards, quarter mile, because I'm working on him with his changes. As he gets older, he changes. He mixes it up based on pressure. But back to answer the exact question, and I've had this happen. I've had it happen where I've walked in. And this is a shout out to most of us Western guys, which I really like. Because we have so much ground out here that nobody needs to set right next to you unless they're just being an ass. I mean, seriously, they don't need to.
Yeah.
But anyway, I've walked in on a guy before in my spot, or let's say it was a camera on my spot. I would hunt it. And if I walk in on somebody sitting right next to me, I'd just talk to him and say, hey, been running this for a long time. I've hunted here forever. Did you notice it? I would just ask if they noticed my setup. And I don't care really what they say to me. I could tell by the way they act if they're being honest or not. And then I'd have to play it from there. Obviously, I don't want to sit right next to somebody, but let's say I do talk to him, and this has happened to me before. I literally had a guy say, I am so sorry. He was in a climber. He goes, I literally thought I just set up on the greatest scraping spot in the world. He goes, I've never seen sign like this. And it's because he found one of my spots that I had been working deer for years. And he was, again, back to this Western culture out here. He was like, man, I'm sorry. He goes, I'm going to get down and I'm out of here. I'll go hunt somewhere else because I can see that you have put so much work into this. And I pointed out my cameras. I pointed out my tree stand. I had all the stuff hidden so well, he couldn't see it. So I have ran into that a little bit, but let's say it's just a camera on my spot and it's that day and I see a camera right on me or close to me. I'm going to hunt it. I'm going to hunt it. And I'm going to probably assume that they probably didn't even see my cameras or stand because I do on purpose so stuff doesn't get stolen. I mean, I try to really keep my stuff hidden. And I sit in trees where I have great back cover and, I never leave sticks on a tree or, I climb a tree and hang that day and hunt and leave or whatever. So I would hunt it. I would hunt it, especially with that cold front, that opening day. Bucks are going to move. Nobody's there. Yeah, somebody has a camera, say off to my side of me. I'm going to hunt it, and I'm going to make sure they see me on their camera. I'm going to make sure when they check that camera, they're like, oh, somebody's here. And again, I'll go back to mindset, culture. Us Western guys, we don't want to hunt near people. We don't want to be next to other people. We've grown up. That's how That's how we do things out here for the most part. I mean, I have been hunting this country for 40 some years, Mark. I've never had a guy be an asshole about wanting to sit right next to me, ever. Now, have I had guys follow where I'm at and hunt within a quarter mile of me? 100%. But I've never had anybody want to be right next to me. Like, usually guys in this country will leave you a note
Hmm.
or reach out to you if they think, oh, that's a Lone Wolf custom gear camera and I know Troy, I'll just reach out to him. I've had multiple good people reach out to me and say, Troy, I think I found one of your setups. It was awesome. I'll stay, and they literally, they say, yeah, I'm not going to hunt on top of you. It was awesome. I've had guys come to my boot camp that have found my stuff before and said, it all made sense once I found it while you were there. So Mark, I've been fortunate. I would hunt that spot if it was a camera. If there was somebody there already sitting there, I'd talk to them. And just be a good human about it. Like, why not just be a good, and if they were, if they wanted to get all, I would call it immaturely defensive or act ignorant, I got lots of options.
Yeah. Okay.
And I would move on that same deer and just get away from that person if they were going to continue to hunt there. I would just move on him and hunt him, maybe a quarter mile away somewhere else, because there's always room to move on deer in the big woods. Always. Yeah. There's always room to move on them.
All right. So speaking of moving, I've got one here that I feel like I know exactly what a Justin Hollinsworth would do, or I know what an Andre DeQuisto would do. I'm not 100% sure I know what you would do with this one. Imagine you have one of these very well put together sites that you've described several times. You've got the community scrape area dialed. You've been working this maybe for years, or at least months leading up to this hunt.
Right.
We're
at least months. Yep.
Yeah, at least months. And we're gonna say this is a November situation here, okay? And your camera's been there, your scrapes have been there, your stand is prepped, it's perfectly hidden. You've obviously dotted your I's and crossed your T's. You show up to hunt in November, and you see 3 different bucks this morning. One of them is a shooter, 2 others like pretty nice. All of them are 40 to 50 yards out of range. For some reason, everything is just outside of where you would typically want it to be, and they're not coming to your spot. Would you, I guess I won't even give you options. What would you do in this scenario where in the same morning you see 3 different bucks do the same thing, all out of range?
Right. And now you're also adding in that I tried to call them to me and it still didn't work.
Yeah. It's because I'm imagining like an Andre or a Justin, they might right away tear down their set and go move to where they're seeing this moving. But with you having invested so much time into picking these spots and making them so good, right where you want them to be, I'm curious if you trust your spot more than you trust the eyes, or what your process would be.
Yeah, I really trust my preparation. My preparation has always paid off. I'm extremely patient. And as long, and that, if you're going to move on them, even if it's 100 yards, 50 yards, that move has to work with the wind, the entrance, and the exit just that far away. Like, you got to map that out in your head to even consider moving on them. Twofold answer here. I have moved on deer big time in November because they moved on me. 50 yards is a different scenario than a quarter mile. 50 yards, he's right there in my wheelhouse. And based on the intel that I have on that shooter deer I'm after, I'm going to play the odds if nobody's around. Nope. I'm going to look at their demeanor. I'm going to look at their body language. And if they're just doing what whitetail should be doing in November, and they're just outside of where I want to shoot them, or I didn't have a shooting lane at 50 yards, 50's a poke, in my opinion, for whitetails out of a tree stand. A lot of guys do it. I usually kill everything at under 20. That's because my setups are set up for that. I would play much more of the patient game on that deer because I'm right with him. And in the mountains, in the vast country, 50 yards is nothing. Like, that's like, he's basically dead if he doesn't know I'm there, if he's been frequenting there, if he just happened to get lucky that day and hit a trail just out of where I wanted to shoot him, I would believe wholeheartedly if he showed no behavior whatsoever of being nervous in there when I'm in there, I would actually be like, yeah, he's in trouble because I'll kill him tomorrow or 2 days from now or 3 days from now based on everything he shows me. Yeah, I probably wouldn't just tear down and move over for any reason at a 50-yard range. Now, let's say I'm in Ohio and I have limited space and I need to be 30 yards over to kill this deer and I'm on a short 1-week window to kill a specific deer. I'm tearing down and moving just like Andre and Justin because you hunt the situation. You don't hunt blanket statements. You hunt the situation. So if I'm limited on space, I need to get over there. That's the trail they like. I'm moving on them right away. Yes.
Okay.
Is that fair?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm going to throw one more kind of wrench into it for you. And let's imagine, and I'm curious, I liked how you broke that down on what you would do at home, where you have this, long window and a lot of prep versus like a shorter hunt in a new place. Imagine this slight tweak on that scenario. Let's imagine you only have one buck you're after. It's one really special buck you're after, as you often are. And it's, again, this November time frame. It's evening. You've been sitting. It's an evening hunt. Last couple hours of daylight are just ahead of you, and you see the one buck you're after. But instead of just passing by out of range, he's actually with a doe. He's locked on a doe, and they're just kind of walking slowly straight away from you. 2 hours of daylight. What do you do in that scenario? He's right there, but he's locked on a doe, walks away from you slowly. They're just doing their thing. What are you doing?
I'm smiling because I don't know if you can see this buck back here. Now you can't.
I can't.
Back there in the corner.
Okay, yeah.
So 3 years ago, that happened.
Okay.
And that's a buck I call half rack. He's hidden up in there in the corner. You can't see him. But he was, just to give your listeners an idea, he grossed 172 inches.
Jeez.
Mountain buck. You're talking, and I shared that with you not to be cool. I shared that because it's a buck I wanted to kill. I wasn't going to shoot any other deer. He did it to me. Came across above me, was with a doe, and I really study a whitetail's wants and needs based on his body language and behavior. And I knew what he was wanting. I knew what he was doing. And it was, I posted a picture of this after I killed him 2 days later, or 3 days later. It's a short window behind that I killed him. Might have been 4 or 5 days at the most. Just bear with me here. I took a picture of him because I looked at him and that's who I wanted to kill. And he was with that doe. And I had about 2 hours left in the daylight. It was beautiful out afternoon, snow on the ground, looking up a steep mountain face. They came across the lateral trail above me that drops down to my community scrapes just off to the northeast of me, probably 20 yards away. And I thought, I ain't saying a word. I'm not making a noise. Either that doe's going to come down through here and I'm going to kill this buck, or I'm going to wait. I'm not going to blow him out of here. I got him. He's in here comfortable with 2 hours of daylight left. And all of that processed through my mind based on his body language. So I took my camera, took a picture of him, and I videoed him. And they walked across the lateral trail above me, and I think I posted this at 53 yards. And I thought about, I could. He came across the glade, and Mark, Idaho, it has open glades in some spots.
Yep.
So there's this little tiny glade that's about 30 yards wide with just no trees above me.
Yep.
And I use that opening because most of the time them bucks will skirt it and come right down to me instead of walking across it.
Right.
But we all know why he walked right across it. He had his nose with a doe.
Yeah.
So I played the odds. I said, I'm just very patient, and I don't anymore at all. I never I really try not to make foolish mistakes when I'm after a buck of a lifetime, for anybody, even me. Anytime I get into that quality of buck, it's like, this is again a buck of a lifetime out here. So I let him go. He went The doe went into the timber above me to the right. They went to the north of me, and he followed her. I took that video, or I think I took a video of him and then did a still off the video is what I did. I did it real careful, because I want to get some B-roll of him, wanted some B-roll.
Yeah.
Well, I did that, and they never came back. I sat there till dark. I listened to them. And this is something to share too. You really learn a lot about deer when you're patient. And you don't allow that adrenaline to take over and try something that's iffy. I really hate wounding deer. Like, I like to slam dunk kill them close. So it paid off. I can't remember the exact days, but within 1 week, I killed that deer right there. And instead of him coming across the lateral trail with that doe, he had serviced her, taken care of her. As soon as he left her alone and he was done with her, it probably was 5 or 6 days later, because I think that's how it played out. He was already checking on my other does in the family group and hitting the scrape again. So I capitalized, in my opinion, on leaving him be, not messing it up, knowing I was in his wheelhouse, knowing that he had more does to service there, and I killed him within a week. To be fair to listeners, within a week, I killed him. He was at 53 when he hit that lateral trail. I killed him at 33 to 35 coming down off that lateral trail a week later, down to hit the scrapes on his way down at 33 to 35. And, to me, I made the right play on an old mountain buck that everybody was trying to kill in that area. I know multiple hunters that were trying to kill him. I was in his pocket of comfort, reverting back to the Adirondacks.
Yeah.
I would look for those places that I just sense and feel, hard to get to, really good cover, habitat, thermals, wind, breeding areas in early November, those pockets of comfort where those deer just feel safe. I was in the right pocket to kill that deer when I killed him. And I had multiple does on the community scrape, on the licking branches year round there, and he knows it. He grew up on me. I knew that deer from when he was younger. But anyway, I hope that answers it. That's my play. I didn't move my stand because my stand is just bulletproof there for almost every wind situation because of some terrain features and barriers. I stayed put at that tree where I was hunting him and killed him a week later.
Yeah, that, and also I think another important thing is that you didn't, in that moment when he was walking away with that doe, you weren't sending out Hail Mary grunts or rattling or making any racket, trying to make it happen right then either, which I think a lot of people do. Yeah.
I was quiet, Mark. I was quiet. And if there's anything I've learned to kill these old, real savvy, mature mountain bucks out here, I only talk to them when I think the time is right. And I usually only soft social doe grunt if they're by themselves, because that never threatens them. Or if there's multiple deer around and a younger buck around in this scenario, I will snort wheeze them and they'll usually come right in. If you have other deer, like say down at your scrape or in the invisibility in the area, you have that deer scent right there in November, I will snort wheeze at a big mountain buck with the right scenario too. To me, he was so enthralled with her, he was willing to walk across that open glade 2 hours in the daylight. And that immediately told me this guy's in love. So I just left him be. And I was hoping that doe would pull him to me without me saying a word. I didn't want to booger it. I didn't touch the grunt tube. I just let them do their thing.
What did you do that next day? Did you go right back in that same spot?
Well, because of my work schedule, and this is 3 years ago, so I'm going to try to get this as accurate as I can. So if somebody goes back and listens to another podcast, don't bust my ass on it.
Yeah.
But it's close. I looked at I remember, I was like, yes, and I remember texting Ty and Jess out. I'm probably going to kill him. He's in trouble because he loves it in here. And he's on this doe. I believe I went back and tried to hunt him on that doe after work for a 2-hour window, I believe one time, because that's all I had with work schedule. But then I was freed up being teaching only 4 days a week, we're on a 4-day work week out here. I was freed up to hunt him for 3 days on a weekend, if you will. I killed him on the first day I had off at that scrape. So I think I killed him Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I think I killed him the first day of the 3 I had to hunt him.
Okay.
So almost a week later. Yep.
Interesting.
If I remember right. And he was in there on the camera too, Mark. I got to watch the intel on him. I had 3 cameras in there, and I got to watch him service that doe for a couple more days. You know, after I looked at all the intel, this is after the fact, after I kill him and actually pull the cards.
Yep.
And then I got to see how it all played out. He was in there the whole time, even at least at night and daylight. He daylighted a couple times, not on the little 2-hour window I had to hunt him. I didn't see him that day, but I didn't lose any hope. I knew it was just a matter of time with this area. And because I had those other does that I got to look at after the fact, he was already snooping for those other does within 3 or 4 days after I saw him with the doe, once he serviced her. Yep. That's why he came back to those scrapes.
Yeah. So this is another scenario that I'm gonna take a little bit of something you inspired me to think about, which is a scenario that I've experienced, and I frequently debate how I would approach this differently based on the deer density of the area I'm in. And I have some assumptions about the deer density in a big woods place. I know northern Idaho is a little bit unique when it comes to, I think it's a little bit unique compared to other big woods places I've hunted, but I guess rather than me giving this whole preamble, I should just ask the question. The question is this. Imagine you're hunting one of these great spots that you've prepped, right? You've just said you have a lot of patience and you have a lot of confidence in your spots. Let's say you have a spot where there was some cell service. So you have a cell camera in there and you have confirmation not only that this is a great spot because you prepped it well and you picked it well, but also you have pictures of the buck you're after several times in the last week in this spot. It's November. You go there to sit and you sit 3 full days and you don't see hide or hair, not just of him, but nothing else. You sit 3 full days during the rut and see nothing.
Yeah.
What do you do? What do you do in that scenario?
Well, the first thing is if you go 3 full days and see nothing, it's your problem. You're screwing it up. It's me. It's my entrance, my exit, where I'm parking, something from where I park to get there, to get in the tree is ruining everything. There's something in my game plan that's wrong. If you don't see anything for 3 full days after consistency. Now, if it was 1 day, Mark, that could be, and I do need to add this in, unless a pack of wolves or a mountain lion comes in. So I do have to add that in. And sometimes that happens to me because I don't always get the predators on camera. My location just goes dead. But when I have snow, almost always, Mark, that time of year, all I have to do is go in there and like everything's dead, nothing is right, the tracks aren't there in the snow. I'll go for a little walk. If it isn't right, I'll get out of that stand or get out of that tree or wherever I hunt. You know, sometimes I'm going in hanging a set and this just isn't right. I don't see the sign. Let's say it was a cell camera and it turned off, or excuse me, the sign and it turned off. I got to go find if a predator's been there. And usually that's the case for me. Usually it's wolves or lions that run all my stuff away for up to a week or 2. But back to the original question. It's my issue. I am doing something wrong if I go sit 3 days on a freaking cell camera that's been proving to me all the deer want to be there till I get there. That's on me. So then I got to break down, what are you doing wrong? How are these deer identifying that they don't want to be here when you're here? Usually it's going to be wind, it could be sight, it could be both, it could be sound, it could be all 3. So I just play off of their senses and ask myself, where am I making mistakes? To circle back to that deer we just talked about that I killed, 2 weeks prior to me killing him, he tracked me in the snow down to my pickup one of the first days I hunted him. He tracked me all the way down to my pickup at night after I hunted him really early in November. And because I came back to hunt him and saw his tracks all the way down to my truck and my tracks. And then he walked down the ridge further. I started parking an extra half a mile back instantly because I knew that he bird dogged me. He picked up my scent, my ground scent, tracked me. That was the first time I hunted that deer I just talked about that I killed. Then I parked way back, walked in a little bit of a different route, and then I had him, with the doe that one day and then killed him a week later because I made a change instantly because of his tracks and my tracks, in my foot tracks.
Fascinating, the things that they do. They are survival machines.
He literally walked down my entrance trail in the snow to where my truck was parked and literally walked in my pickup tracks in the snow, then veered off and went down a ridge off the road. Yep.
Wow. Here's one that I hate to throw out at you because it's something we never want to have to consider. But I'm curious just how you handle these moments. I'm assuming maybe you've been in this at least once. Most of us have. You're hunting one of these spots, your big old target buck comes in just like you wrote it up on the script, gives you that beautiful 20-yard shot that you want, and God forbid something goes wrong and you clean miss that deer.
Yep.
It's 9 a.m. It's November 1st, 9 a.m. Clean miss. He runs off. He's out of there. You're sitting there at 9:10, and what's going through your head? What do you do next? What is your process post miss for the rest of the day, for the next couple days, for how you deal with that?
That happened to me 4 years ago. I had not missed a whitetail buck in a couple decades. Yeah, because 3 years ago I killed the one we just talked about. The year before that, I was hunting a tremendous deer that a buddy of mine ended up killing. So I got to, I know what the deer. He and I both knew the deer, and we always were very respectful to each other where we were hunting them. So we never messed each other up. And I was glad he killed him. But anyway, long story short, I did shoot right over that buck. And it did happen to me. And I ended up killing another great buck there. And this is what I'm getting at. If I shoot right over a buck, clean miss, that is not disturbing the woods very much. If I have another potential shooter in the area, or if it's rut and I just think a big trespasser could show up, clean miss, I'm not getting down and tracking a shitty shot. I'm not disturbing anything. The only two entities in those mountains that heard me miss him are he and I. He might even come back later if he doesn't know what it was and doesn't smell me. If he doesn't smell me, see me, or know quite what that bow was going off and just get spooked. What time of the day did you say it was when I miss him?
9 a.m.
I'm sitting all day. I ain't leaving, especially if I'm in a great, you're talking ruddy time, right? November time. Yep. I am not leaving, especially if I feel super confident about the bucks that are in the area, even if it's not him. So I'm not leaving. I'm just getting quiet again, probably laughing at myself and texting my son that I just effing missed freaking one of the biggest deer of my life, which I did. and I'm 100% eating humble pie. And I'm probably talking to God a little bit about, all right, what do I need to clean up in my life? Because that you're telling me something.
Yeah.
I'm probably going through the whole scenario of laughing at myself in my mind, but staying in the game, knowing that it is good to be humbled, and it actually is. And then I'm also evaluating me in my mind, like, what did you do wrong? Why did you miss? Have you even shot your bow the last couple days because you're hiking up through this brush? See, all that went through my mind when I missed that big deer 4 years ago. Sure enough, Mark, I went home, shot my bow in the dark at my house that night, and I was 8 inches high.
Yeah. Jeez.
I had one of my micro adjusts on my sight completely come loose. That's on me. That's on me. That's, and I did talk about it in some podcasts, but no, I'm not leaving, Mark. I'll stay right in there. I actually went back to kill that deer and had what I thought was a trespasser that I later realized I did have him on camera a tiny bit, but not enough to say I had him. I ended up killing a different buck on that spot that same year.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Not a situation you ever want to find yourself in, but usually what matters the most is what you do in the coming hours and days when you have to make or break what you're gonna do next.
I will say this: since that miss, the last 3 big boys I've killed back last 3 years since him have been very well hit. Very well hit. Like, get my shit wired tight, wired to hunt. You
Yeah.
gotta have your shit wired tight,
Yeah.
especially when you start hunting in August. You're going so hard. It is so easy to not go shoot that bow
Hmm.
when you're wore out, you're tired, you're getting home after dark, you're leaving before daylight. Shoot it under your street light if you have to at 20 yards to make sure it's on. That's all I would have had to do. I had no idea. I literally was 8 inches high. It was stupid. My whole sight was just crazy off.
Heartbreaking.
And I, yeah, and it's my. I mean, I busted it loose walking through the brush to get up in there because I had to. There's spots in there where I'd get to. I'd hold my bow above my head to get through the brush, and I'm sure I snagged it, busted it loose, and didn't realize it.
Okay. This is the last phase of the gauntlet. We're just gonna do a quick set of rapid fire questions. It's 4 or
Okay.
5 questions here. One word answer. I'm gonna tell you like this or this, and you've got to pick. We'll go through that very quickly, and I've got one last funky question for you to really expand on, and we'll let you get off to the rest of your day, all right?
One word, right?
One word for this first set of questions here, okay?
Okay.
Does the moon matter to deer movement? Yes or no?
Yes.
Would you take a 50-yard shot at a whitetail with your bow? Yes or no?
Don't need to. No.
If you had to pick one of these two, and it would be the only tool you get to use for the rest of your hunting days, would you choose the rattling antlers or the grunt tube?
Grunt.
Expandable or fixed blade broadheads?
Fixed.
Should you stop a buck that's walking with some kind of sound before shooting with your bow? Yes or no?
Situational.
Fair enough. All right. This one you can expand on. You can paint as big of a picture as you want here. Imagine that I am in control of your hunting privileges, and I'm going to take away your hunting license for the rest of your life. Unless you can kill a 5-year-old buck this year. Got to kill a 5-year-old buck. Okay? You have to do it in one day from one location. So you get to pick the date and you get to pick the location where you are going to kill this very high stakes 5-year-old or older buck. Tell me what date you're going to pick, and then paint for me as detailed of a picture as you can of that best possible stand site on that best possible day.
For that scenario only, and it cost me my life of hunting. Opening day, mountain butted up against alfalfa, up in the timber a little closer to his bedding. I'll kill him coming to the alfalfa at a scrape.
How
Opening day, August 30th, if I have to do it, but I have to have a destination food source like alfalfa for me to pick that.
Yep.
If not, if not, Mark, it's community scrape, middle of November, any day. In one of my community scrapes that are really hard to get to, that I get daylight every day of old bucks. And I would make sure, because you didn't say one buck, he just has to be 5 years old.
Yep.
I would hunt my roster that had the most 5-year-old bucks at that best community scrape in mid-November.
Yep. Makes sense. A quick follow-up on that early season hunt, though. A scrape back off of the alfalfa. If you had to pick the usual distance, like how far back off that field would you want to be ideally? Give me a window there. Are we talking 100 yards, 500 yards, 50
Yeah,
yards?
out here in these mountains, of course, it'd be the licking branch that I would have that unbelievable destination food source that he is so drawn to. And biggest whitetail I've ever killed in my life. That's how I killed him, September 1st. But I killed him on top of the mountain that led down his main trail to the alfalfa in the bottom. So I was 400 yards from the alfalfa because that's where I got him daylighting on a licking branch in a saddle.
Okay.
That's why I brought that up. And he was, to this day, Mark, and I still see it to this day when I have alfalfa in the basins of mountains. And I do have some places I hunt like that where I'm on a mountain, but great feed below. And alfalfa is such a great draw. Ask the Canadians. You get them, those old bucks, especially when like this buck was 8 years old. That was his life and that was his happiness, was getting to eat that alfalfa when he was older. And he had no idea somebody was going to hunt him August 30th. I killed him September 1st because I had the right wind. But my point is, the dude was doing it every day, and I watched him do it in the glass from the middle of July on. Literally almost every day that I scouted him from a long ways away with the binoculars, it was his routine. So his routine was just phenomenal for a mountain whitetail. And it was because there was destination, incredible food below. That's why. But I had to hunt him way high. I had to get up where he was. He would never get to the alfalfa in the daylight, not even close. So I did hunt him probably 400 yards up on the mountain in a saddle that I could glass. So I had glass. I had glass evidence of it before trail cameras.
Yeah. Interesting. This is exactly what I was hoping to be, Troy. I've thoroughly enjoyed this chat. I love the thought process you put into this stuff, how you think through it, and how you communicate. Very, very helpful, Troy. So thank you for that. If folks want to see some of your past hunts or see some future stuff, where can people do this? What should they keep an eye out for moving forward?
Well, first of all, Mark, I want to thank you for giving me the privilege to be on your show. You do an amazing job.
Thank you.
I also like that. Also like that we have a little bit of Idaho in common with each other.
Yes.
Pretty
yes.
cool. Anyway,
great state.
People can find me the easiest for anything hunt related just on my Instagram, MTN_man, Mountain Man 33. I try to answer anybody that asks me a question always. Try to give back always. And then I work for the DeQuisto family, Lone Wolf Custom Gear, a team leader on the Addictions show, and then, work with sponsorships and things like that for addictions. So we have our Whitetail Addictions show on YouTube. Our first episode just aired this week with Andre. So please, people, go out and watch that episode. It just came out. Andre's just been an amazing guy to my family and to me over the years. Yeah, so just the Addictions, Lone Wolf Custom Gear, Whitetail Addictions, and then my Instagram. And I try to keep it real simple and in those lanes of where people can find me and talk to me. And I got an episode coming out this year. I don't know when my episode will roll out, but it'll be on that big mountain buck I killed last year at almost 5,000 feet elevation up in the high mountains.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to that one, Troy, and looking forward to following how this season goes for you. I'm sure you've got a good one or two that's in big trouble this year. So best of luck, and thank you again.
Thanks, Mark. I've been working hard at it, and this year is the first year in either 15 or 16 years I do not have a son having a football season. My son Tyson has graduated from Montana State, and we are going to really have some time on our side this year, and I get to hunt with Ty again, so it's going to be a blast.
That's so cool. Good for you guys. Well, have a lot of fun with your boys. That's the most important, the best thing of all right there.
Amen. Thanks, Mark.
All right, that's a wrap. Thank you for joining me. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you learned a lot from this one, and stay tuned. We've got another great episode, a conclusion to our What Would You Do series coming next week. So stay tuned, and until then, stay wired to hunt.